Welcome to Fungos Footnotes, the podcast where baseball meets the deeper side of the game. This show is for players, parents, and coaches who care about more than just box scores. We talk development, recruiting, mindset, leadership, and the lessons baseball teaches us that last long after the final out. Because the game shapes you and the footnotes matter. Let's get into it. Welcome back to this episode of Fungos and Footnotes. My name is Addison Williams, your host, alongside Coach T, Corey Thornton. What's up, Coach T?
How you doing, buddy?
Oh, I'm doing great. Today,
Good.
we've got an episode for you guys. This one not only talks to the parents and the players, but this is the lineup, starters, non-starters, and what really matters. We all have rosters across the board. There are 1,500 college programs in the U.S., and there are certainly a lot more select organizations and high school teams. So let's jump into this. The lineup is something that is not necessarily talked about a lot, but parents and players that are listening, it's most important. And I'll just start with this, Coach T, and then we'll dive right in. We've all done it. We've all seen you walk up to the fence, you walk up to the whiteboard in the dugout, the lineup card's posted, your name isn't where you thought it would be. Or
Right.
on the flip side, you walk up to the fence, the lineup card is posted, and your name is right there at the top. Now the pressure is on in a
Yeah.
different way. Let's talk about the pressures. Coach T, let's talk about first and foremost, what does the lineup actually mean?
Well, I think when we're dealing with youth, and I would say 11, 12, maybe under, depending on the level that we're playing. If we're just playing like AA baseball, I tried to hit everybody, and I tried to manipulate my lineup. The same kid didn't have to hit bottom every time, because I did feel like at that age, hey, we need to develop kids. And if a guy gets game, we're not doing our job helping that kid to develop. But you start getting a little higher level, AAA majors, high school, college, certainly the lineup is vitally important on how you set it up. Certainly you want to get the momentum on your side. So you want to try to put some of those better guys at the top. And then, of course, we can divide that up, not just better guys at the top, but that way you have an opportunity to come out of the gate, maybe score a few runs, get the lead, get a little momentum, have a little better opportunity to dictate the pace of the game, possibly. That's important from the coaching standpoint. I used to do everything I could to dictate the pace of the game to the other coach. In other words, I would call a lot of pickoffs, call a lot of defensive changes. From the offensive standpoint, I'd call a lot of takes if I felt like we needed to try to stretch their guy out. So I felt like it was important for me, as from a coach's standpoint, to dictate the pace of the game, because that was what my players were used to. But when you're young and you're playing, most teams, if you can score early, you have an opportunity to dictate. So the pace, I felt like as we got older and as I coached at higher levels, we may not score early. So in that scenario, I would take the pace of the game from the coach's standpoint, but definitely the top of the order generally has some of your better hitters there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Coach T, of what you said, the lineup is a role, not your identity. Derek
Right.
Jeter, if we look at Derek, he wasn't always the captain. He had to earn it. Same with Albert Pujols. Nobody starts as a legend. And I love what you said about how you utilize the lineup to force a hand from the opponent. And I don't feel like a lot of parents or players understand the logic behind why a coach does what he does when it comes to the lineup. So could you speak more into this idea of producing a lineup for the sake of a matchup, or producing a lineup for the sake of team needs? I think that that's something that we should really hone in on.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, if we're talking standard lineup, I mean, everybody wants to put that guy in that first spot. He can run a little bit. He's got a good eye. He can hit from behind in the count, so he can take some pitches and work the count. And if he gets on base, he can put a little pressure on the pitcher because he can run. So everybody's looking for that out of their leadoff hitter. One thing that I would look at out of a leadoff hitter most of the time, I like to try to lead off with a left-hand hitter if I can. And the reason for that is, think about the guy in the bullpen. He's in the bullpen. He's working with his catcher. Even at the college level, this happens quite often. Hey, they're working on fastballs away, fastballs in, breaking balls away, maybe even some breaking balls in, that slider down and away. So we got a right-hand pitcher in the bullpen. And most of their focus is going to be with a imaginary right-hand hitter in the box. So if I can lead the game off with a left-handed guy, I might can getting that guy's head right out of the gate a little bit, make him swap sides of the plate that he's not used to. Matchup purposes, absolutely, especially at the older level, college level, junior college level, not a ton of really, really good left-handed pitchers because most of those guys are playing a little higher level, but you always had a lot of good dominant right-handed guys and guys threw hard, guys had good sliders. So I always try to find a bunch of left-hand hitters. I try to spread those guys out through the lineup because I felt like most right-handed guys with a good slider, they're working down and away on those right-hand hitters with that slider. If I can put a bunch of lefties in my lineup, I can make that guy throw that thing to the other side of the plate. He's probably not as comfortable throwing it over there. Probably doesn't bite as hard if he throws it over there. So that's going to give me an offensive advantage. And if I got two hitters, let's say shortstop, right-hand hitting shortstop, left-hand hitting shortstop, the right-hand hitting shortstop is clearly the guy that garners more innings. If I'm facing that really, really, really good righty with a good slider, I might play that left-handed hitting shortstop on that day, at least until I can get to the bullpen. And then I can roll my other guy who's probably got a few more at bats out. So 2-hole standard, get somebody in there can handle the bat. Now I will say that style of play is kind of losing its luster a little bit because most people aren't willing to go ahead and bunt right away. And there's a lot of data on bunting. And I always use the data from the defensive side. And what I mean by that is the opposing team 4-hole hitters coming to the plate. That guy can hit for power. Maybe that guy's a 350 hitter. He probably hadn't bunted more than a couple times in his life. So if my third baseman, we worked on playing the game and again, we're trying to dictate. So I'll have my third baseman when that big 4-hole guy comes up. Of course, we'll address it in our pregame, meeting. Hey, we're going to back up to the outfield grass over there at third. We're going to give it to him. And that coach is going to look over there and see our third base like, wow, what's that guy playing so far back for? Let's put in a bunt call. Well, now you're asking a 350 hitter to do something. He's probably about a freaking 110 bunter. So you're asking that guy to do something he's not proficient at. So there's a lot of data that says that. So a lot of coaches have scrapped the bunt unless it's a game-winning situation. But I would like to have a guy in that 2-hole can handle the bat. Maybe we can hit and run. Maybe we can bunt for a hit. I don't know that I'm going to give away an out the first inning for free. It's the first inning. I want to make that pitcher throw some pitches, but I wouldn't be scared to hit and run or bunt for a hit if I got a guy that's proficient at it. So that 2-hole, you get a little bunt action in there. And then, of course, most people put their best hitter at 3. Now, some people will put their best hitter at 1, so he gets more at bats. And there's some data that'll back that up too. But standard lineup is guy gets on a lot 1, guy can handle the bat 2, best hitter 3, best power guy 4. So I follow that for the most part, unless I got a heavy blend of lefties. I don't want to put a bunch of lefties in a row. I might be facing a left-handed pitcher. So I'll try to break that up. So the opponent that's pitching is going to have a big effect. Youth ball, it's hard to know. I typically didn't make my lineup out until I saw their guy go to the bullpen. Most of the time in college ball, all my years coaching college ball, hey, we exchanged lineups before batting practice. So I would make my decision based on who they were throwing and how did my guys look during BP. Some days guys just they just don't see the ball good, whatever it can be, right? Maybe they're just not having a good day. And so I might make a change in the lineup based on BP that day too. So, but 1 through 4 is pretty standard. Speedy, handle the bat, best hitter, power guy.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Well, I certainly appreciate you framing up from a coaching perspective. How do you actually implement the lineup into a day to day? So let's shift gears just a little bit. Let's talk about for you as a player listening to this podcast. We've all seen the lineup, we've all been a starter, we've all been a non starter. So let's talk first and foremost, Coach T, about hey, if you're a starter, number one, let's act like you've been there. Starters don't gloat, they don't cruise, they don't check out mentally. I mean, Coach T, we've talked a lot about the mental game of baseball and the
Yes.
importance of staying connected. So, for the audience of, hey, we play baseball for a purpose, let's talk from a starter perspective. What is your encouragement to those starters? How do you make sure that they stay in the game, they're connected, and they're making sure that they do realize that, hey, honestly, you might lose your job tomorrow if you don't compete today. So how do you keep that morale up for your starters?
Well, this is going to sound crazy, but I kept the depth chart in the dugout. So everybody knew who was the dude, at each position. And here's the next guy on the list. And I would update that depth chart pretty regular. And I'd always make a few changes on there, maybe not with my starting nine, but I'd always make a few changes on there so people could see that, hey, there were some changes made. And I'll try to reward some guys. Maybe the guy was third on the depth chart. Maybe the guy was second on the depth chart at second base, but he was third at shortstop. I might slide that guy up to second at shortstop and drop him to third at second. Unless we have a rash of injuries, that guy's probably not going to get in the game, or maybe we get up in the score, then they're going to get in there. But that's gonna motivate that guy though, because most guys that play second, well, they want to play short. So he moved up in the shortstop deal. But that's one way, and that was at the college level. Young team, when I was coaching young team, hey, guys that did good, again, I tried to manipulate the lineup so that I didn't have the same guys at the top every time, and I didn't have the same guys at the bottom. But if we had 2 games in one day, which in youth ball, you have 2 games in one day all the time. Guys that had a really good game in the first game, hey, I'd bump them up there to the top in the second game. If a guy hit at the top in the first game and he had a really good game, I wouldn't make him hit down at the bottom just because he hit at the top. Now, normally I'd flip those lineups over so I could balance those at-bats out, but you could earn it. If you went up there as the first hitter and you had a 3-for-3 day, guess what? You're probably going to be first or second in game 2. So I would reward those guys. But I didn't make them feel like I was punishing them when they got moved down, because I did flip the lineup very regular. Again, I think my focus was on development more on the player side. So I had to try to spread those at-bats out. Now, as they got older, if they got moved down, hey, they knew they got moved down because they weren't getting the job done. If they got moved up, they knew that they were headed in the right direction. So now what I would say for parents of a youth kid, if your kid's batting 8th or 9th, our goal doesn't need to be to go talk to the coach because my boy needs to be hitting 3. Let's talk to our player, our player, and see if we can't have some small goals. Hey, let's get from 8 to 7. What do we need to do to move up? And maybe it's hard, especially when the coach keeps similar, but what their goals for their guy hitting in the 7 and 8 hole are, and I'm in the 8, how can I get into the 7? Maybe I got to handle the bat better. Maybe I got to work more walks. Maybe I got to be more aggressive. Maybe I just need to get more hits. Now, here's the thing, too. I think that a lot of parents overlook when they look at where their player's batting on a youth lineup. They'll look at the game changer and say, well, my kid's hitting 300, and the kid that plays more in front of him is hitting 240. I need to go talk to the coach because my kid should be playing more. So one thing that we have to understand is production. And when I say production, I had a guy that played for me, ended up playing some pro ball. He was probably the least likely guy on a team to make it to the pro level. Out of all of the kids on the team, I mean, nobody would consider him. He wasn't a tremendous runner. He didn't really have a defensive position. But the guy, absolutely, when there's guys on base and it's critical, he got a hit. Now, he may only go 1 for 3 or 1 for 4, and his batting average only may be 270 or 280, but it's guaranteed. That guy bats with runners on base. He was the most uncanny hitter I ever had, guaranteed to get a hit. Now, I had guys on the team that out hit him, but they didn't produce like he did, because 2 outs, nobody on, they'd get a hit. 2 outs, game on the line, they'd K up. So first inning, nobody on, they'd hit a little old single out there somewhere, helps the batting average. We weren't able to convert anything out of it. So production and batting average aren't necessarily the same thing. So if your son or your player is outperforming someone who's playing in front of him or her, or garnering more of the time or hitting higher in the lineup, it doesn't necessarily mean batting average. So every coach is looking for different things out of different spots in that lineup. So, and production could be one of them.
Yeah,
And
that's
that
really
gets
good, Coach
overlooked
T.
big time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. That is really good insight. And it's just a reminder that you don't need to tie your lineup number to your identity, because just to your point, Coach T, just to reiterate, the team, you have a job to do. And maybe your job is to be the 6-hole hitter, whereas on paper, or if we're talking about numbers, 6 isn't great. But to your point, if you have a job to do and you do it effectively, you're going to contribute to the team's success overall for you being in the 6 hole. And so it's just a reminder
absolutely.
that it can't just be about the numbers. I mean, we're talking about starters in the starting lineup. Just to remind everybody, if you're on the starting nine, you're in the starting nine, you're going to be playing. So let's not take it with a grain of salt, the number that is beside your name.
And it can, there's a lot of factors. Your best power guy, everybody says, oh, you got to put your best power guy in the 4 hole. Maybe this player prides himself on being the best power guy. Maybe he doesn't hit the breaking ball very good. What's the other team going to throw that big power hitter in the 4 hole? If they don't know you, they don't have a chart on you, it's just a youth game, you're going to get a lot of breaking balls. I might hit that guy 5 or 6 so he don't get as many breaking balls, so he gets a better chance to drive some balls because he gets some fastballs to hit. And maybe in the 4 hole, I put a guy that has a really good knack for handling the breaking ball because he's going to get some in that 4 hole. Right? A guy's struggling, but he's a really good hitter. Maybe I hit him 9 or 10 or even 11 youth ball because I know he's a good hitter. He's just struggling right now. He's going to get some fastballs down there to hit. So there's there's a number of reasons why coaches might manipulate their lineup and move it around. And it's not always your standard speedy guy 1, back control guy 2. There's always reasons for moving those lineups around. And every coach is different. So I think if your player is 11 or 12 and up and he's not in the lineup where he wants to be, or he's not even on the lineup that day, and that looks like it's a trend, they need to talk to the coach. 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. And T, we talked a lot about culture over the past few weeks. We've talked about culture and being a good teammate. And I would just say to that point, whenever you are a starter, there are going to be non-starters. And so we talk about this idea of teamwork and making sure that we're all engaged with the game. As a starter, it's easier to be more attentive in the dugout because you're going on defense, you're going to be hitting. But one thing that I would encourage all of our starters that are listening when we're talking about this is to elevate the dugout. Make sure that
Yes.
you are keeping the energy high and owning your mistakes. I mean, yes, absolutely. There is a target on your back from the perspective of somebody's going to be taking your spot, but you do have to remind yourself this is a team game and you're on the starting line. Excuse me, this is a team game and you are in the starting lineup for a reason. So that means that you are a leader in some capacity. So T, speak to that leadership component of being a starter.
Without a doubt, we have to set the tone. I'll give you an example. Many times, just coaching over the years in youth capacity, and when I say that, again, 14 and under, but even at high school level, 15 to 18, there's games where you're going to be matched up with, you're going to have an opportunity to take those best guy or two, and you're going to be able to sit them a little bit, or maybe the whole game. Whereas maybe they haven't sat quite a lot because you need to be competitive and those guys need to be out there. I would tell those, I'd take those guys over to the side and I'd tell them, hey, you're going to sit out today in this game. You better be leading the charge in that dugout, right? If you want to get back in there where you belong, you got to set the tone. These guys spend all day cheering for you. You got to pay those guys back. Now you get over there and you lead that dugout and you cheer for them. And so now Again, when I was doing 12 and under, I rotated the lineup all the time defensively. Most of the time I'd hit the lineup. But as the guys got older and things started to sift out, yeah, you had starters and backups. And I would always take those starters when I'd make a change, whether it be because of the opponent maybe we're playing, or maybe the score, or maybe they're having a rough go. Maybe they're having a rough day. If they're having a rough day, I'd call them over there and I'd give them a hug and say, "Hey, man, let's just put this game behind us here. I'm gonna let Jimmy hit, and don't worry about it. I'll run you back out there tomorrow." That kind of thing. That's when they're having a rough go. Hey, they need a hug. If I don't think they're giving me the effort level, and I get them, I'm gonna tell them. I'm gonna hit Billy right here because I don't think you're locked in at the level I need you today, and so you'll have a chance to get over there and clear your mind. But if it's the opponent, I'll tell them ahead of time. Hey, look, man, today's your day. You're going to be, you're not just going to be cheering. You're going to chase foul balls. So that way it's kind of like Bill Parcells used to make those rookies bring him a cup of water at training camp there with the Cowboys. I just wanted those guys to understand that, yes, they are really good players, and yes, they play a lot, but when it's their turn not to play, they have to do the dirty work too. And then the guys that when they get in because of the score or the opponent, I tell those guys, hey, here's your chance. Look, don't put any extra pressure on yourself. Just go up there and give me 3 quality at-bats. And then if they did, I would try to reward them because, hey, we're showing some progress. But the most important thing is, and what most parents don't see, is practice. How they doing in practice? How's practice habit going? How's their BP? What is their energy level during BP and during practice? So that'll have an effect too, without a doubt. And a lot of parents don't get a chance to see that. So we have to consider that too.
That's true. Absolutely. I love whenever you're not a starter, that's really where character is built. That's what we're talking about. I love talking about
Absolutely.
David Ortiz. He was released, he was doubted, and then he turned into Big Papi.
That's right.
You just
It
have
happens.
to really focus on the things that you can control. And you can't control coaches' decisions. You can't control other players. And certainly you can't control the political game either. But
Right.
the one thing that you can control is your work ethic, your attitude, your body language, and preparation. And Coach T, even when I was coaching as well, it's just a mindset of you, just like if you were leading a business, there's a culture that you have to create and foster. Same thing. Whenever you're coaching, there's a dugout, there's a culture in the dugout, there's a culture in the locker room. And when the game is on the line, you want everybody to be all in, whether you're a starter
Absolutely.
or a non starter.
100%. And let's be honest, watch the College World Series, watch the Major League World Series. Every single pitch, every single guy in that dugout, when the camera pans over there, they are locked in. You never know when you're going to get that call. It could happen at any moment. And maybe it's just a pinch run. Well, you better have a good feel for the pitcher's timing, because what if the coach puts the steal on? So if we're not locked in over there, we're not going to have that info locked in our, in our computer upstairs. So that's super duper important. And yes, it is hard to build that culture, but I always tell my guys, look, if you're not getting as many at bats in the game as you want, then you're going to have to use your 2 or 3 at bats or your practice, whatever it may be. You're going to have to get out there and make a point to prove it. And if you get in there, make it so good, the coach can't take you out.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean you have to go up there and get 3 hits. Maybe in a crucial situation, you come up and have a 12 pitch at bat and fight like a junkyard dog, and you end up hitting a scalder to the third baseman and he gets you out. Well, guess what? That kind of effort right there gets rewarded. So you
Yeah.
didn't get a hit, but we're going to get rewarded because of the effort level. So, but we need that effort level all the time, game and practice, and in the dugout when it's our turn to sit on the bench. Yeah.
Absolutely. Prepared players get opportunities. And Coach T, I love what you said there, because there's a lot of pressure that is like, oh man, I got to get a hit. I got to perform. I got to do this. And for those that aren't seeing this, Coach T is shaking his head no, because that's not the pressure that you need to have. The pressure
No,
is so overrated. You just need to be a competitor. If you compete
yes,
when you get lineup card in your favor. Or if, like Coach T, you were talking about, you get that pinch hit or even the pinch running opportunity in the fifth or the seventh inning in a 9 inning game, just go out there and compete because that's what the coach is going to remember. Were you ready and did you
Yep.
compete? And the third thing is then that guy's going to get another opportunity.
Without a doubt. And I'm going to say this on the high school side. Kids get really nervous when college coaches show up and they know they're out there because, man, I've been talking to this school and gosh, they're out there. They they may not vocalize it, but in their mind, they're feeling like, man, if I don't get 3 hits today, I'm not going to get a scholarship. If I strike out 3 times a day, I'm not going to get a scholarship. Hey, if you go up there to the plate and you roll over and give away 3 at-bats, you ain't getting a scholarship. If you go up there and compete like your hair's on fire, even if you don't get a hit, you're going to have an opportunity. And then during the dead time, and we've talked about this many times, when the ball's dead, you're not involved in the play. What's your body language? What's your action? What kind of hustle you got? What kind of bounce in your step do you got? How locked in are you? When nobody thinks the eyes are on you, that matters just as much as if you stepped up there and got 3 hits. Every coach knows. Coaches understand that. So if they come to watch you and you don't get a hit, it's not the end of the world. How much did you compete? What kind of battle did you give? Did that pitcher have to earn it to get you out? So we need to understand that scenario so that we can minimize the pressure on ourselves. So when we do get a shot, we can go up there and compete. That's the main thing, compete. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that we really shaped a great conversation when it comes to, from a player perspective, being a starter. Obviously, you got to lead, and we'll close out in just a little bit. But before we do, I'd love to just double down for the parents. Coach T, whenever we talk about the lineup comparative to what the parents should be thinking about, especially whenever high school season starts, moving through the ranks of rec ball or select ball, moving into the high school age, that's when it starts getting a little bit more proactive in terms of did I make or did I not make the lineup? So, from a high school and college perspective, why don't you speak into the parent side of things? How would you, as a coach, shape that conversation?
well, I think if we're talking high school and up, the player needs to be the one carrying on those conversations, not the parent. I'm talking about coach player conversation. The parent probably shouldn't be involved in that. There's a lot of high school coaches now because it's gotten really tough. They just refuse to talk to parents altogether. Now, I've never been that person. I don't have a problem talking to parents about any scenario with any age kid, quite frankly. But I think the player needs to initiate that, number one, and find out what where the disconnect is and where we can clean that up. But if the parent does have to get involved, say it's a youth team because they feel like they're not getting where they need to be with their player, the parent, first thing, don't do it right after the game. Put a little 24-hour rule in. The last thing the coach wants, win or lose, is on his way to the parking lot to have a parent in his ear on the way to the car. Make a time with the coach, schedule it. Hey, coach, I'd like to talk with you about Ben's playing time. Schedule it. What would be a good time to talk about that? Then just keep it cordial when possible. I realize some coaches are going to already have a negative mindset because the parent is wanting to talk to them, but keep it cordial, keep it professional. And main thing again is find out, hey, what does Ben have to do to garner some opportunity to get in the lineup? And let's see what the coach says. And maybe there's something that we can rectify. If there's no real answer or there's just no chance that Ben's going to have that opportunity, then we need to make the most out of practice. Ben's got to understand he's got to get all of his reps and his quality time in practice, maximize that so that he doesn't feel like he wasted the whole season. And we need to reevaluate at the end of the year to see if we can find a team. Maybe we think Ben's a AAA player and maybe he's a AA player. We need to reevaluate and find a team where Ben can get some opportunity. And so maybe we have to check our pride a little bit as a parent and let our player, move down to double A. Main thing is there's coaches and teams out there that don't make winning the be all end all. Don't get me wrong. I'm as competitive as anybody, and I wanted to win every single game I've ever coached in my entire life. I also understand when we're dealing with youth ball, all the kids need development time. So I played everybody all the time. There are tons of coaches out there like me that will do that. So I say when we're looking for a team as a parent for our youth player, let's try out for a lot of teams. Let's talk to a lot of coaches. And we don't have to join the team just because they win a ton of games or because they play that AAA level or the majors level. And I think my boy needs to play there. Hey, we need to be on a team where the coach is dedicated to development and playing. That way, Ben gets all the time that Ben needs to develop. So,
Absolutely. That's really great insight, Coach T. There are three questions that I would like to leave our parents with as we move into the tail end of this podcast. But, parents, I would just encourage you, as Coach T said, from a player development standpoint, talk to your player, most importantly, but don't grill the player. Be in his corner, or if we have softball listeners, be in her corner as well. But talk about the discipline, talk about the attitude. So here are just a few questions that I would encourage our parents to ask. Did you outwork everybody? Did you put in the effort? How was your attitude? And the one thing that I would love to just reiterate is, what did you learn? As we both know,
oh,
there are
yeah.
going to be ups and downs to baseball, and whether that's in a practice or a game, but the more that you learn, the more that you absorb, the better knowledge that you're going to have of the game. And also, if you think into the mindset of a coach, if you start picking up on ways that the coach leads the game and the coach calls pitches or plays or bunts when nobody's on to throw everybody off, start thinking about those things, because that's going to make you a better baseball player, especially as you advance into high school and college baseball as well. So, Coach T, that was some great insight. Parents and players, we've talked about the lineup today. Coach T, do you have any last minute thoughts as we close out today's podcast about the lineup?
Yeah. So, like I said, if you're down near the bottom, if you're hitting 11 or 10 or 9, hey, your goal needs to be to move up to the next spot. And to be honest, we don't want to get we don't want to get our mindset so singularly focused that our goal is to move from 9 to 8. Don't get me wrong, we definitely want to continue to improve our game, but we don't want it to negatively affect our defense. We may be hitting in that 8 or 9 hole because we're not hitting well, but we're a really good defensive player. So we don't want our goal to move up in the lineup to overtake that thing that has us in the lineup, which is our defensive ability. So
Yeah.
let's make sure we're focused. Don't get me wrong, on improving our swing or our contact percent or our power numbers, whatever it may be, so we can move up in the lineup. But we're still honing all of our other skills and keeping those skills sharp. And the last thing I'd probably want to say, just in general, coaches have favorite players. My favorite players, guys that show up early, guys that stay late, guys that have a lot of hustle, a lot of bounce in their step, guys that are locked in, guys that don't miss signs, guys that say yes sir, no sir. Those are my favorite kind of players. So every coach has favorite players. So let's make sure we're one of those guys. And then let's get after it on the skill side.
Well, hey, Coach T, I have to break the ice. I would have been one of your favorite players, even though I never played for you.
I'm sure you would have, no doubt.
I'm a left-handed hitter. I say yes sir, no sir. I can track down a
You're
ball in
in.
the outfield, and I can pitch. It's just
You're
a
in.
it's a win-win. You actually talked about that, not me directly, but I remember, and I'll close with this, and this is the importance of what Coach T is talking about. If you do those things and you are a favorite player, you're going to be put into positions where the team needs you. And a perfect example that I have, whenever I was playing college ball, we had one of our big power righties come in. He was a slingshot with a nasty slider, and he actually threw a pitch and he ended up tearing his one of his tendons in his elbow.
Yeah.
It just immediately shot down. So games on the line, you talk about being one of the 5th to 7th inning players of like, hey, you might not have a chance to warm up. That was me. I actually had to go into the game from the dugout to the pitcher's mound because we didn't have
Yep.
time to go to the bullpen. My bullpen was on the mound in front of everybody in the 6th
Yeah, with
inning
the
to
other
close out the
part.
game. Yeah.
Yes. Man, that's rough. I'll tell you, I always hated that because I felt like if it was my pitcher, they would say they're ready before they're ready because of all of the anticipation. The fans, the other team, everybody's waiting and they don't want to hold up the game. If it was the other team, I didn't feel like the guy, we got a little more than likely something's probably brewing. So the guy's having to work really hard and they got hurt or their arm started to hurt because we had a long rally, whatever it may be. So we probably have something brewing. Certainly we'll probably have somebody on base in that scenario. And I didn't want the guy to come in and be just wild enough to be effective because he said he was ready before he was really ready. So I always hated that they make you do that in that scenario. So, but I mean, what can you do? I mean, it just is what it is. But if you bottom line is like we talked about hitting, you just got to get out there and compete.
Absolutely.
So guys that compete, they're going to have a chance to get some opportunity on any team I coach because that's what I'm looking for. Non-competitors.
Absolutely. I would close with that. The lineup is temporary, character is permanent. So if you're starting, lead. And if you're not, build. Be in development. Be that guy that's not being the U-Haul cheerleader, but be the guy that's intentional about showing up, developing as a player, and be committed to the team because you're going to get your shot. Baseball is one of those sports that's mental and physical, and you're going to have a chance. You're going to have an opportunity to get into the lineup. So whenever you do get into the lineup, make sure that it counts.
100%.
Make sure that you lead well. If you're not in the starting lineup, make sure that you compete well because both sides of the coin are very vital to a team's success. At the end of the day, that's what we're all about. We're a team that has individual roles to come together to do what? Win a baseball game.
As a team.
Thanks for listening to Fungos and Footnotes. This episode helped you see the game or your role in it a little more clearly. Share it with someone who loves baseball too. Subscribe, follow along, and stay connected because the game doesn't just reveal talent, it reveals character, and the footnotes matter.